is I'm going to talk about fluffy dogs, because fluffy dogs is what sets you up for success when it comes to market structures. Then we'll go through all of these specific questions. So again, you're not limited to one question. Ask as many questions as you want to ask. And you all know by now, when I do a lesson and a crash course, I'm expecting you to unmute your microphone and answer my questions. Put your hand up, I will choose, and then unmute and answer the question. So, fluffy dogs be pooing pretty easily. This acronym will get you an A star for talking about a market structures essay. So, what does fluffy dogs be pooing pretty easily stand for? It stands for firms, differentiation, barriers to entry, price maker or taker, profit, and deficiencies. So if you know these characteristics about all of your market structures, you know everything you need for an essay. So when we're talking about firms, we're talking about the number of firms in a market. When we're talking about differentiation, we're talking about whether they have homogeneous products, homogeneous versus differentiated. Can someone shout out to me what do these words mean? What does homogeneous and differentiated goods mean?
Homogeneous means homogeneous means the same, and differentiated is different.
Good. So the word is actually extracted from Latin. Homo means the same. Genius means characteristics. So it means the same characteristics, identical characteristics is what that word means. It means that each of the products are exactly the same. Whereas a differentiated good means that the good has a USP. You would pick this thing over this thing because of something special about the product. So I would book a taxi on Uber versus calling my local taxi rank because it's way easier. The fees are upfront and I know exactly how much my taxi is going to cost. I can track the taxi and it feels safer than a random car pulling up in front of my doorstep and I'm getting in the car and I don't know anything about it and the person's asking me for cash. And at the end of the journey, I have no idea how much it's going to cost me, right? That's a differentiated good. And a homogeneous good would be water. I know that people will probably argue with me, smart water tastes different to Evian that tastes different. It's water, right? These are homogeneous products. The water in the bottle is water in the bottle, okay? All of these products are identical. So it's nothing, you're not going to get superpowers from drinking smart water versus drinking this water bottle, right? So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about differentiation. There's 3 types of barriers to entry. Use like the hand up icon. Who knows the 3 different types? Arushi.
Is it technical, financial, and legal?
Perfect. TFL. A lot of you are London-centric here. You're used to the TFL. That one should stick. Technical, financial, legal. Issa, you had your hand up as well. I want you to give me an example of a technical, a financial, and a legal barrier to entry. So I should be getting 3 examples from you around what those actually mean and what they are. You're muted if you're speaking, Issa.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yeah. You're really quiet though. I don't know if you've got earphones in or something. If you're speaking, I can't hear you. Are you speaking?
Hello?
Okay, I can hear you now. Go on then.
Oh, wait, did you hear what I said?
No, you was like completely silent. I can hear you now though.
Oh, I said legal barriers include like patents, trademarks, copyright,
Good.
and allow firms to legally prevent other firms from stealing their ideas and entering the market.
Mm-hmm. Can you give me an industry where patents are really, really predominant, acting as a barrier to entry?
um, uh, like could you say like something like I don't know, like building rocket ships?
What
Was
was that?
there?
Sorry, rocket ships.
Yeah, like building rocket ships. Like
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess rocket ships would be one. The more easy one to be able to remember and be able to extract a lot of data from is your pharmaceutical industry. So pharmaceutical industries rely on patents to operate as a market. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. A pharmaceutical market without a legal barrier to entry would cease to exist. And the reason being is because it takes billions and billions of pounds of research and development to find the cure to illnesses. So if you've spent billions and billions and billions of pounds to do it, the only reason you have the incentive as a firm to do that is that a patent prevents any competition in your market for 10, 15, 20 years. So you can recoup those, funds back plus add a profit to it. So if legal barriers to entry did not exist, patents didn't exist, pharmaceutical markets wouldn't exist because no firm would ever have the incentive, a profit driven firm would have an incentive to innovate and find cures to illnesses because the only reason they do that, again, unfortunately, is not to save the planet or to save people, it is to drive significant amounts of profit. And if they couldn't make the profit, they wouldn't bother. Everyone would die of whatever the diseases are that exist. So, legal barriers to entry, one of the most kind of important markets for its literal existence is pharmaceutical markets. So, very, very good. Who can give me an example of a technical or financial barrier to entry? Yes, Sugar?
I was gonna say, would technical be like R&D investments?
It's not R&D investments in particular, but it's what comes out of an R&D investment. That's what technical barrier to entry is. So, for example, it would be like the technology or the infrastructure that Amazon has built. That is a technical barrier to entry. If somebody else wanted to create an online marketplace, well, good luck trying to replicate what Amazon has created. Yes, Issa.
technical barriers like internal economies of scale.
So yes, a technical barrier to entry could also include an internal barriers to internal economies of scale. So we just want to make sure that the language we're using is correct. So if we're talking about a technical barrier to entry, we would be talking about, for example, like building algorithms, right? That algorithm is so hard to be able to replicate that enough stops anybody trying to. How many substitutes do you guys know for Amazon? I'll give you £100 if you can tell me a substitute for Amazon. There isn't one, right? Because nobody can build the infrastructure, the algorithms, and the technology that Amazon have to be able to leverage the operation, the skill that they can do, right? So building that algorithm has already acted as an a barrier to entry. Even if I wanted to do what Amazon is doing, it's just impossible because I don't know what the algorithm is, right? So that would be a technical economy, not economy of scale, sorry, a technical barrier to entry. The financial is just going to be like how much money does it take to enter this market? If it's really, really high sunk costs, you're just not going to join the market because you simply can't afford to. I mean, I would love to be selling oil all over the world, but it cost about £3 to £4 billion to build an oil rig to be able to extract the oil out of the sea. So it's a great dream that I have, but where I'm getting £3 to £4 billion to do it from, I don't know. So that is a barrier to entry. I can't join the oil supply. I can't join Shell and BP as a competitor because I simply don't have the funds to do that. And then the legal is your kind of patents, trademarks, that kind of stuff. Okay, good. So price maker, price taker, what does that mean? Price maker means that you are setting the price. You have price setting power. Who knows what gives you price setting power? How do we determine whether we're making the price or we have to just take the market price for the product? Yes, Arushi.
The level of product differentiation.
Perfect. And what else? Sugar?
I was going to say market power, so like market share.
Perfect. Number of firms in that market. Brilliant. So if you own a lot of the market, because there's not very many other firms that exist in that market, and your product is highly differentiated, that's what gives you price making power. So, Muad, what market structures are more likely to be price makers, or the most likely to be?
Like monopolies,
Good.
oligopolies, and monopolistic competition.
Good. And then your perfect competition is a price taker because there's a limited amount of firms that exist in that market. When we've got profit, we're going to be referring to the short run and the long run when we're making these profits. But also what we're going to be referring to is normal profits and supernormal profits. 8-star question here. Who knows the difference between a normal profit and a supernormal profit? Ryder, what is the difference? What is normal profits and what are supernormal profits?
Is it like normal profits is like for the long run, it's like the break even point essentially, and then supernormal is like the profit in the short run?
Not necessarily. What are the points? If I'm making normal profit, what point am I operating on my diagram?
I'm not sure.
What about supernormal profits?
I'm not sure either.
Okay, Hafsa, you had your hand up. What point on the diagram shows me normal profit and what shows me supernormal profit?
Is normal profit AC equals AR.
Brilliant. And what's supernormal?
And then, supernormal is MC equals MR.
Perfect. There's a really easy way of just remembering that, right? Is A is the first letter in the alphabet. Number 1 is a small number. So you can see the pattern is something C is equal to something R. It's the same structure for both of them. So normal profit is the lower amount of profit. So that's the A one. So it's ACAR. And then supernormal profit is making mega bucks. MC is equal to MR. That's the easiest way to remember it. Okay? So normal profits is AC equals AR. Supernormal profits is MC is equal to MR. Who can explain to me in words what normal profit is and what supernormal profit is? So these are the points on the diagram, but who can actually explain what that actually means? If I'm making normal profits in my business, what does that mean? Because Rayda actually touched on something that is the biggest misconception for students. So who can tell me what yes, Shogun, what is it?
Normal profit is like the opportunity cost that an entrepreneur has, and supernormal is the maximum amount of profit that I can gain in the long run.
Good. So the key thing, if you ever get a question about the definition of a normal profit is being able to cover your costs plus the opportunity cost of the entrepreneur. So what does that mean? It means that, for example, right, let's actually use Economize as an example here. So let's just say it costs me 10K a month to run Economize. Paying all my staff, doing all those things, cost me 10 grand. If I can make, so these will be my costs, and I'm going to put revenue here. If I make 10 grand a month in sales, I have reached my break-even point. My normal profit point would be that I would include my operating costs plus my opportunity cost. I left a 6-figure job in the city to do this. So until I can recoup my salary cost on top of the cost to operate my business, I have not made a normal profit. So let's just say I was making 10 grand a month in my corporate job. So actually, in order for me to make normal profits, I actually need to be making 20K a month. That's how I make my normal profits. My supernormal profits would be anything above 20k. So if I'm making now in revenue 60k, I'm now making 40k of supernormal profit. Because 20k, I'm making normal profit. Anything over 20k is supernormal profit. That's when I've paid myself, I've paid my staff, I've paid for all my factors of production, and now that's all the profits that we get to sit on. So that is actually the difference between normal profits and supernormal profits. That's why you are not getting total cost is equal to total revenue. That is your break-even point. That's why normal profit is AC is equal to AR. So that's the key way to make sure you're remembering what is going on. Okay, so then we've got our different efficiencies. DAPSC is a great way to remember your different efficiencies. Who can tell me what DAPSC stands for? Caden, do you know what DAPSC stands for?
Does it stand for dynamic, allocative, productive, and maximum efficiency?
So we've got dynamic, we've got allocative. What does P stand for?
Productive or productivity?
Yep, productive efficiency. So productivity and productive efficiency are two different things. So we'll get through the distinction of that. And then what was X?
I just have it as X as inefficiency.
Perfect. Brilliant. So can you tell me what any of these mean?
So allocative is basically where P equals MC.
Perfect. What does that actually mean in words to the everyday person? What does allocative efficiency look like? What is it?
It's basically when resources that are used to make goods and services are like they're maximized like for social welfare, I think.
Yeah. So basically what it means is the most amount of people in the market are receiving the product. So again, a quick, simple bit when we've got a demand curve, right? If we're at the top and we are operating here, that means that it's only a low quantity of people are receiving the product. Whereas if we are operating here at the on the low part of our demand curve, it means that almost everybody that wants the product is receiving the product. So allocative efficiency is making sure that the most amount of people in that market are able to experience your product or service, and that's why you're selling it at MC. You'll be able to cover the cost of producing every extra unit, so you're basically charging a super low price for the product, and that way the most amount of people are able to receive the product, which is effectively allowing for efficiencies, social welfare to be maximized. So brilliant, Caden. Is there any more of these that you know, Caden, on this list?
Yeah, dynamic.
Okay, what is
That's
that?
basically when the firm basically reinvests supernormal profits back into the business, right?
Perfect. So we use supernormal profits to spend on R&D, and then do we do that in the short run or the long run?
I think it's in the long run.
Yep. Dynamic efficiency can only happen in the long run. So a key part, and this will snag people out every time, dynamic efficiency only applies to firms that make supernormal profits in the short run and the long run. If you only make profits in the short run, you can't afford to be dynamically efficient because you don't have enough money to be able to pay consistently for research and development. So let me put it into perspective. Economines has been investing in technology since 2019. We are now in 2026. Me, out of my own personal pocket, have spent over £500,000 on technology. I couldn't do that if I only made profit in 1 year and then never made profit again. And I should say, be really even more clear, supernormal profits. If I did not make supernormal profits consistently, how would I be able to afford a consistent investment into technology? I wouldn't be able to do that. So that's why dynamic efficiency occurs in the long run, but you must have supernormal profits in both the short and the long run to be able to afford to do it on a continued basis. So research and development isn't something that you invest in one time, and it isn't something you do quickly. It's something you do over a long period of time. And so, Caden, what is the benefit of doing it? Why do we care about spending all of our supernormal profits or significant proportions of it on research and development? What's the aim of that?
I'm not sure, but is it something to do with basically just maintaining the business and allowing the firm just to carry on making the supernormal profits?
Okay, let me ask you a question then. So, with Economines, right? Again, you can probably guess the dates. I did this investment from 2019, 2020. What happened in 2019, 2020?
The pandemic.
Yeah, COVID, right? So there was a key reason why I've invested in technology. So you are correct. It was to allow me to be able to kind of survive and stay in the market. But what do you think happened to my business when I was able to reinvest my profits into research and development? So I started with a website. Then I built a version 1 of the platform, version 2, version 3. We're now on version 4 of the platform. If you was to just imagine, obviously you probably didn't see the platform 5-6 years ago, but do you think the the website I created 6 years ago is as good as what we've got today?
No.
No. So the whole purpose of dynamic efficiency is to increase the productivity of your products, services, team. Yeah, it's to increase innovation. And when you are more innovative, when you have higher productivity, you're able to increase your market share, increase your price making power, and therefore your profits in the long run. So I invested all that money into technology with the hopes that this is going to pay me back in the next 5 years. So that's why we are dynamically efficient. So you have to know that, because if you don't understand that, then you're not going to understand why it's important for us to have firms that have the potential to be dynamically efficient. So that's dynamic efficiency. Who else is in here that I've not spoken to? Wessel, what is productive efficiency?
I don't know the definition. I'm not sure.
What's X in efficiency?
I'm actually not sure.
Okay. Does anybody know what productive or X in efficiency is?
Is X inefficiency like organizational slack?
Perfect. What does that mean?
It's where like is it something to do with diseconomies of scale?
Yes. So organizational slack is when your organization gets too big, you start to experience diseconomies of scale. And that's because you are often experiencing the principal agent problem. Every tier in your organization, you've got shareholders, managers, and workers all have different objectives that they want to maximize. And because everyone's doing whatever they want, you start to experience diseconomies of scale. So that is principal agent problem, and that links to your X inefficiency. Who knows what productive efficiency or inefficiency is? Yes, Muad.
So like it's when like firms produce at like the lowest possible cost. So it's when like AC equals MC.
So that I wouldn't use that point. The point I would always say in your exam is AC. You're operating at the lowest point of your AC curve. That's actually what I would say. So it's the lowest point on
Wait,
AC.
is it not the same thing though?
Well, the thing is that it depends. It depends on what market structure you're referring to. So yes, it can. That is true, but the safest way, so your back is always covered, because I don't know what the context of a question might be, because there might be something in a case study or something that may alter or change the parameters of what it is that you're talking about. So productive efficiency, the safest definition is the lowest point on your average cost curve. You can also say AC is equal to MC, but it depends on the context. This one is always right. So yeah, so you're right. Cool. So if I said, Muad, if I'm talking to you about the MES point and linking it to productive efficiency, could you tell me what that is, and could you do that? Did you say no? Can anyone do that? Yes, Sugar?
Isn't MES like minimum efficient scale?
Yes. So how does that link
Yeah.
to being productively efficient?
So you could maybe say that because it's like the middle point where like the firm is neither like in diseconomies or economies, and you could link it to productive efficiency because you could say that that's the point where it reaches the lowest like cost.
Perfect.
I'm not sure if that's right.
Yeah,
but-
you are right. So when you've got an economies of scale diagram, you've got economy of scale, you have a flat part, which is this part in the middle, it should be more flat, which is the orange part. Then you have a diseconomy of scale. So economy of scale is as you increase output, your costs are falling. Then you get to a point where it's constant. Output is increasing, but your costs stay the same. Then you get a point where as you continue to increase output, costs actually go up. So your minimum efficiency scale is this flat part here. This is where you're experiencing productive efficiency because it's where you have you've exploited your economy of scale to a maximum point. Yes, Arushi.
I thought the minimum efficient scale was specifically the first point, like the end point of the economies of scale. It was not the whole flat line. It was just like
No, it's the
The-
whole flat
Okay.
surface is the minimum efficiency scale.
okay.
But again, this is the point because it's a consistent point. Whether I'm the exact point where it hits the economy of scale or here, that's the same cost anyway. So it doesn't matter where you.
No,
put it on
I
the
thought it's
diagram.
because it's the same cost, but the output is different. Because if it's horizontal, if it's like constant, then output's still increasing, right?
So, but we're only talking about being productively efficient. It means that you are operating at the lowest point of your average cost curve.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool. Oh, I actually see the question that you're asking me. You're actually asking me a maths question, aren't you? Is basically, should that be flat? Because if you're talking about average cost, then you're actually referring to more units of quantity at the same cost, meaning that your average cost is actually lower. Is that what you're saying to me?
I don't think so.
Oh,
No.
okay. Let me know. I don't want to start confusing you because this is the thing with when you do A-level econ, because you don't do any maths. There's certain things visually that you're allowed to do in your exam that actually, when you start diving into the differentiation, is not always true. That's what I thought you was coming to me with. But just ignore everything I've just said and just go with this definition. I don't want to confuse anyone. Yes, Isa.
I thought that that point was MES and the horizontal line is constant returns to scale.
Yeah, so when you hit MES, that's when you get a constant return to scale. So yeah, that's it. So output
Alright.
in gives you the exact same quantity of output out in terms of an increase. So if I add 3 units in, I get 3 units out. Increasing returns to scale means I add 3 in and I get 6 out. Decreasing returns to scale means I add 3 in and I get 1 out. So this occurs when you are here. That's why the curve is flat. Your MES point is when you've maximized your economy of scale. You cannot get a lower cost per unit. That is where you are also productively efficient. That is also the same thing as saying you're operating at the lowest point of your average cost curve. So when you stack all of those things together, you get a really good A-star point when you're not just writing productive efficiency as the lowest point of the average cost curve. You're able to build the rest of this in and build the logic of why that is important. And then therefore, why that is not always a achievable thing for people to be able to do. So, okay, cool. So we've got all of our efficiencies down now. So when we're going to be able to, when I'm answering your questions, I'm now going to be basically drawing on all the things I've just spoken about here. Your homework is to draw yourself a table. This is the easiest way to be able to go through, to go through this stuff, is to go through a table. I think I actually did this the other day. I do have one. Is it here? You guys should replicate and draw a table like this and write fluffy dogs be pooing pretty easily down the side, all of your market structures, and fill it in. This is a real clear, easy snapshot of all of the key things that you need to know about all of your market structures. So now to go and answer all of your key questions on things you just asked, let's smash through those. So how do you evaluate price discrimination more than just saying the benefits to the consumer? So we want to split them into the 3 different types, and then you're able to evaluate them. So we've got first, we've got second, and we've got third degree price discrimination. So first degree price discrimination is where you charge every customer a different price for your product. So the closest example to that is your utility bills. So like your energy companies, your water companies, your gas companies. They charge everybody a different tariff. So what I pay in my house for gas, electric, and water, I promise you is different to every single one of you. Everybody pays a different rate because they wait for you to come, argue with them, negotiate with them, and then they'll give you a better price. And if you've been on certain tariffs or whatever, depending on the area you live in, they just charge you everybody different prices. They basically try and charge every single customer the maximum price they possibly can. So the key definition for this, or the key part that you must say in this, is that the aim or the objective of first degree price discrimination is to make consumer surplus zero. Because the producer has maximized the price for every single consumer. So consumer surplus is the difference between what you're willing to pay and what you do pay. So in first degree price discrimination, they are charging the price is equal to what you're willing to pay. Therefore, you have no consumer surplus. That is first degree price discrimination. So the evaluation to first degree price discrimination is that this completely is going to destroy outcomes for consumers, right? This is super, super harmful. However, if we're going to do some judgment on this, and this is how you beef up the argument, is this requires perfect information to happen at its kind of full or true essence. But we already know that perfect information doesn't exist. Okay? So actually, first degree price discrimination, it's impossible for a producer to be able to know the max price that every single consumer of their product is willing to pay, because there's asymmetric information in the market. The consumer knows that, but the producer doesn't know that. So first degree price discrimination in its truest form is actually impossible to experience. The closest we have is a utility market. So that's how you'd build that argument. Second degree price discrimination. Who knows what second degree price discrimination is? Everyone knows first and third, but most people don't have a clue what second is. Arushi? Oh, Isa?
Is it like charging different prices depending upon the choices of consumers, as they may not have information on consumers?
Okay, give me an example.
Say, I'm not sure actually.
Okay, let's tag Arushi in.
Isn't it like block pricing?
Okay, what does
Like,
that mean?
Essentially, they'll charge. Isn't it kind of like economies of scale in the sense that if they buy a lot, they get kind of the thing is discounted? I know the diagram is kind of just like your axis and then I don't know how to explain it now.
Quickly sketch it out and send a photo in the group chat of the diagram.
Okay.
Yes, Muad.
Is it like, I don't know if this is right, it might be wrong, but like, for example, if you go to like Starbucks or something, and if you want like syrup on your coffee, would it be a type of like second degree price discrimination? Or like Spotify Premium and just like normal Spotify?
Okay, you are the closest one so far. And it's your second example that is right. Yes, Isa.
So is it like purchasing economy, so like bulk buying.
So it's not quite, not in its actual true essence. So the easiest way to think of second degree price discrimination is packages. You have all been second degree price discriminated against by me. You guys all had the choice to pick a package. Do you want to pick essentials and have just resources? Did you want to pick boost and have only 1 hour of tutoring? Or did you want to pick fast track and have 4 hours of tutoring a week? That's second degree price discrimination. You're able to basically categorize your products to fit and sell to as many different price budgets as possible. So our package that is the cheapest has the least amount of things in it. Our most expensive package has the most expensive things in it. So Spotify Premium, Spotify Duo, Spotify Family. They are selling to different people based upon the incomes of those individuals in the household. However, the point around the bulk buying is when you typically sell a package, and this is me giving you insight as a business owner, to make your package more attractive, you need to bundle more things in so the value seems better. So the Economize Boost package is £1,100 for the full academic year, whereas the Economize Fast Track is £1,500. So actually, when you bulk buy the tutoring and take 4 hours instead of 1, your tutoring becomes cheaper. That's why that package is better value for money. So that's why all of you have decided to take that package over the Boost package, because that one actually works out cheaper when you break down what you get. So when we're talking about the bulk buying, it's not specifically bulk buying, it's more about package archetypes, right? It's around when you're a business owner and you set up a package, the only way the package is attractive to purchase is if you stack it up that there is value in purchasing that package versus buying the cheapest version of the product or using it for free. So it kind of ties in all the concepts you guys have spoken about, but packages is effectively the easiest way to think about second degree price discrimination. So in terms of pros, that actually helps with allocative efficiency because you are allowing more people to be able to access your product and service because you're offering different versions of your product that can cater to all different types of budgets. So it actually helps with allocative efficiency. But in terms of an evaluation point around second degree is that premium services, exclude those who can't afford it. And often the outcome of the cheaper tier or the cheaper package just isn't the same as actually experiencing the thing in full. So, for example, if somebody took the Economize Essential package, which is just resources, in my opinion, I don't think that that is the best way of actually doing the thing that we say that we're good at doing, which is getting you an A or an A star. The best way to do that is by joining the Fast Track package, which is the more expensive package. So we've offered a cheaper service that can cater to other people's budgets. But would I say that if you are absolutely desperate for an A or an A star, that is the guaranteed, absolute easiest way to get it? No. It's not impossible. You can absolutely still get the grade, but the guaranteed easiest way to do it is by taking the Fast Track package. So that is actually the downfall of a second degree price discrimination, is that often the lower tiered packages don't maximize utility because it's not actually achieving the best outcome. So again, when you go and get a coffee, and if you don't add the syrup to it, it just doesn't bang off in the way that it should. If you go to somewhere where you want to buy a burger and you don't buy chips as well because you're trying to cater to your budget, the burger just doesn't slap without the chips. So yes, you're eating the burger and you're going to get full, but it's not going to be the same experience without having the chips with it. So that's the negative effect of kind of having second degree price discrimination, is that the premium excludes the full experience. Yes, Shagun?
But can't you argue that it depends from person to person? Because like you said, if the premium, so like you said with the burger and stuff, some people wouldn't want it anyway. So, like, how does that work?
Yeah, that's a judgment point. So remember, we have analysis, we have an evaluation, and then we have a judgment. So your judgment would be, again, depending on the context, if we found a statistic that actually 80% of people actually prefer to eat a burger without fries, then that would be our judgment piece. Well, actually, second-degree price discrimination isn't actually harmful. It is the best way that we should segment markets because it boosts allocative efficiency, and there's only a small proportion of people in the burger eating market that actually like it with fries. So for the benefit of the allocative efficiency, so what if we've excluded people? People don't care about it anyway. So that's context dependent. That's your judgment piece. Good. So third-degree price discrimination. This is basically segmenting your market based on elasticity. Okay, so we're going to look at elastic consumers and we're going to look at inelastic consumers. Wessel, if I've got elastic consumers, am I going to charge a high price or a low price to extract the most amount of revenue?
Would you charge a low price?
You're asking me a question. I'm asking you a question. Is it or is it not? Is it low price or high price? Tell me, don't ask me.
Wait, could you repeat the question?
If I've got elastic demand and I'm trying to extract the highest amount of revenue out of my consumers, what am I going to do? Am I going to lower my price or am I going to increase my price?
Increase the price. Wait, yeah.
Okay, why? Explain to me your logic.
Wait, so when something's elastic, like a change in price means demand changes quickly?
Not quickly, but it changes more proportionately. So you get a big change of quantity demanded when you have a small change in price.
Yeah, so if you increase the price, but like, does demand change in like a good way or a bad way?
Okay, so I went over this on the weekend. I have a demand curve. If I put my price up, what happens to quantity demanded?
Decreases.
Yes. So the key thing about elasticity, and I said this in another.
Oh, so if it's elastic,
yeah.
So if it's elastic, you decrease the price.
Yes.
Because
I didn't say that your initial answer was wrong. You was asking me the question. I just wanted you to give me conviction. So when I ask you that, don't change the answer. That means give me conviction in your answer. Stop asking me, tell me, right? So when we're talking about elasticity, the law of demand and the law of supply are always being followed. Price goes up, quantity will go down. Price goes down, quantity goes up. Elasticity is telling me buy how much. That's it. That's all it's telling me. It's not saying that we now have invented new supply and demand rules, because that means our demand curve doesn't look like this and our supply curve can't look like that. So stick to your guns, okay? So exactly like you said, if we've got elastic demand and I want to extract revenue, I'm going to lower my price. What about if I have inelastic demand? What am I going to do to my prices, Russell?
Increase it.
Perfect. Good. So if I want to extract my revenue, that's what I'm going to do. So when we do third-degree price discrimination, we find who our elastic consumers are, we find who our inelastic consumers are, and then we charge these guys a lower price, and then we charge these guys a higher price. So can any of you give me an example of third-degree price discrimination?
Cinema tickets.
Brilliant. So let's be more specific, though, when we're saying cinema tickets. So a child's ticket is, let's just say, £5. Adult ticket is £10. It's not because the child's taking up any less. The child's still sitting in a seat. The child's still got their eyes watching the screen in the same way that an adult would do, right? So the only reason why these guys are elastic is because they don't have any money. You guys get cheap cinema tickets. Me, I'm old, so I have to pay loads of money for them. But you guys get them for a discount because you're students. So the best and the easiest way to think about price segmenting is like student discounts versus like adult payments, or like old people, like pensioner discounts versus like the everyday person. So when we look at the categories, we've got child, we have like working adult, and we have pensioners. You guys here in these two categories are elastic. So you guys get all the discounts. Us guys in this middle part, we don't get any discounts because we are the ones who are earning the most amount of money. Children don't have income. Old people are stuck on a pension. So they are not generating any extra cash. People that work have basically uncapped returns on their time. So we are able to make money, hence why we spend a smaller proportion of our income on goods, making it inelastic. So we have to pay the highest price for all products, whereas children and old people, you guys get to get the discounts, basically. So that's your third degree price discrimination. So again, in a similar way to second degree, is these guys benefit, yeah? Elastic people benefit when you got third degree price discrimination, but the disadvantage is it's not fair because the inelastically demanded people are going to have to pay the premium. And it's not fair because they have to shoulder the discounts for everybody else. So often products are even more expensive for this middle category because we're subsidizing the discounts on both of these sides. So that's basically what happens. So that's your pros and your cons of your price discrimination. So that's a really, really good question because I've seen questions on this in terms of essay. They only ever ask you the same question. So if you ever get a price discrimination question as a 25 marker, irrespective of your exam board, the answer is you would do 3 paragraphs and you would tell me what is first degree price discrimination, draw the diagram, tell me the pros and then the evals, and you do the same for all the rest of them. And then your conclusion the question would probably be, which is the most harmful? Your conclusion is, they are all harmful in their own respects, but first degree is the most harmful. Done. That's the easiest essay, and you can plan 85% of that essay before you go into an exam, and it's the same answer. So that's a good question. Most people get rattled by that question. If you've prepped it first, it's really easy. So what are anti-competitive practices and examples of different barriers to entry other than sunk costs? So I've done the barriers to entry question. Anti-competitive practices is predatory pricing and limit pricing. So predatory pricing versus limit pricing. Let me just quickly go through this. It's pretty simple. So one of them is illegal and one of them is not illegal. So limit pricing is legal. Predatory pricing is illegal. So predatory pricing is when you drop your price below marginal cost. So your marginal cost is greater than your price. That's when you've predatory priced. If you are pricing at P is equal to MC, that's limit pricing. Okay, so what is it? What's the difference? What happens? So predatory pricing is when you are a monopoly firm and on purpose, you drop the price of your product so low that you're actually making a loss. That's the key thing. You're making a loss on selling the product. So when you make a loss on selling the product, this is going to force competition out of the market. So there are people in the market that exist. Let's just say there's like 3 firms. This is going to force people out of that market. So they were already in it. And because you, as the biggest monopoly firm, have decided to do this insane thing and actually make a loss, the other competition has to leave the market because they can't afford to offer the price that you are. So they have to leave because you basically bankrupt them and take them out of business. That is illegal because it's not fair that you're charging a price where you're making a loss to do that and force people out. So typically, why monopolies are able to do it is because in the short run and in the long run, they make super normal profits. So instead of them investing in being dynamically efficient, they say, nah, mate, we ain't going to bother doing that. What we're going to do is we're going to use these supernormal profits to basically subsidize the loss that we will make in the short run. And in the short run, it will basically force out all of the existing competition because they don't have as much supernormal profits to subsidize them. And they basically just wait. They just drop that price and they just wait until it bankrupts everybody. And then what do? They will actually charge an even higher price or increase their prices even higher because now there is no competition. So that's why predatory pricing is illegal, because not only is it anti-competitive, not only is it unfair because you're forcing competition out the market, not because you've been innovative or you've been able to cut costs, you've been able to do something cool. It's because you're actually just artificially making a loss on purpose. You're forcing competition out. And when there's lack of competition, what does that do? It drives a lack of outcomes for consumers. So the consumers are going to have higher prices. Consumers are going to have worse quality products. Consumers are going to be exploited. And that gives the monopoly a better chance to be able to first degree price discriminate. So that's how all of those things link together. So that's predatory pricing and that's illegal. If you're caught doing that by the regulator, the CMA, then you are subject to fines. But the thing is, nobody gives a damn about the fines that the CMA give, because the maximum fine that the CMA can give is 10% of global turnover. If in this practice, firms have been able to make, let's just say, 600% increase in profits, why on earth are they going to care about a 10% fine? It's insignificant to the amount of profits that they've been able to make. So they will continue to predatory price, harm competition and consumers because they're greedy and they can do it and they have the power to do so. And there's nothing anyone can do about it. So that's always an evaluation point whenever it comes to anti-competitiveness is these are all bad and they're going to get fines and it's going to deter them and it's going to impact their brand image. And again, depending on the market structure, how important that is. If it's a monopoly, they don't give a damn anyway. But oligopolies, monopolistic, they do care. Oligopolies and monopolies are really the ones that are doing anti-competitive practices. And it affects brand loyalty if you're caught doing it, blah, 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 and you get the fines. But at the end of the day, we knew that Tesco's was selling horse meat instead of beef. Who still shops at Tesco's? I know I do. Everybody does. Tesco's got caught colluding and fixing the price of milk. We still buy milk from Tesco's. People forget quickly and they don't care because there's not that many options to choose from when you're in oligopoly or monopoly market structures. So the brand image, the fines, they're actually insignificant in the grand scheme of things. So actually these firms continue to do these practices because the gain outweighs the loss. So that's predatory pricing. Limit pricing is when firms will set their price, P is equal to MC, so that it reduces the incentive for new firms to enter the market. Okay, so again, same outcome in the sense of we've got less competition, outcomes are going to be worse for consumers. So that point still stands, but this is not illegal because you're not making a loss. You're not forcing people out. All you're doing is making it less attractive for new competitors to join. Because if people think, well, I'm only going to be able to make, I'm only able to charge a price that's equal to MC, or the max I can do is make normal profits. Why would I bother taking on the big old stress of having a business when I can actually just work my corporate job and everything's fine if I work my corporate job? So that is your limit pricing. So limit pricing is legal, but the CMA can set rules in that prevents this. So they can put price caps in the market. They can also force innovation in the market. So a really good example of this is BT. BT own all of the lines for internet. The CMA forced BT to hand out their lines to other people. So that's how we have EE. That's how we have Vodafone. That's how we have 3 Mobile, all the other ones. It's because the CMA forced BT to allow other people into the market. And then once they did that, then they stopped limit pricing because they knew now by force people are having to join the market. So why are we now going to shoot ourselves in the foot and make normal profits when we can extract super normal profits? So then they stop doing it. So forcing competition to join the market prevents people limit pricing because now all they're doing is shooting themselves in the foot by them charging these prices and making normal profits when actually they know they can exploit the market and get super normal profits. So yeah, limit pricing doesn't price caps and forcing competition and entrance into the market deters limit pricing from occurring. So hopefully that's answered that question. How do you evaluate the impact of high market concentrations impact on the market? So when we're talking about, I'm going to come back to game theory in a second. There's a reason I've skipped it, because these are the ones that are quite quick to answer. So how do you evaluate the impact of high market concentrations on a market? So all that means, that's a confusing question, but I think what you're asking me is, if we have lots of competition into a market, so i.e. perfect competition, what is the impact on the market? The impact on the market is that those firms or that industry cannot gain supernormal profits. It's impossible because there's so much competition. So prices will have to be AC equal to AR or P is equal to MC. So low prices. And if they are making normal profits or lower than normal profits, that means they have no money to be dynamically efficient. So that prevents innovation. It prevents talent entering your market. So that is obviously, overall, it's bad. If we've only got homogenous products in a market, that's no good for anybody. So we always want innovation. We always want the incentive to be able to make supernormal profits, because that's when people will reinvest and innovate and come up with something new so that they can make a profit. Quality of products will fall. Service will eventually fall, and it becomes a bit of a disaster. So that's the impact on markets. So there's all the positives in terms of other efficiencies that are driven, but the lack of dynamic efficiency in a market is bad. And that, again, if it was a paper 3 and that kind of question came up, it would impact your exports, FDI, and development of a country. How to compare the performance of firms in markets with different market structures. How performance indicators can be used to compare. So that table that I told you to do at the start allows you to compare all of these things. Just for a high overview, monopolistic competition is the worst market structure when it comes to efficiency. So how do you basically say, is a market structure good or bad? It's the efficiencies. You're only looking at the efficiencies of the market to suggest whether it's good or bad for a consumer, producers, governments. Okay, so monopolistic competition is not dynamically efficient because they only make supernormal profits in the short run. They are not allocatively efficient because they don't operate at a price P is equal to MC. They are not productively efficient because they cannot achieve economies of scale to its maximum point and operate at the lowest point of its average cost curve. And it is not inefficient, which is obviously, that's a plus, but it doesn't have any positive efficiencies. So it is the worst market structure. So hopefully that helps. Let me quickly smash out game theory then, and then I've answered all the questions. How to evaluate cooperation versus collusion. So I'll answer that when I do game theory. So that's smashed out all of the questions then. So you know what, let me just shortcut it because I'm conscious of time, because we've hit the 1 hour mark now. Because we started obviously at literally bang on 1 hour ago. So let me just quickly do this one. This is going a little bit over time. Game theory diagram. So I don't have to do the maths of thinking of the numbers so that it makes sense. You guys aren't expected to do the branches or the decision tree. You don't have to do that. You guys only have to do this one. So like the box. So let me just quickly go over this so it makes sense. So something you can prep before you go into an exam, and I'd recommend every single one of you do it, is that you prep your own version of this. That you have your own numbers in, you have your own context, and you have your own example. That if there's a situation where they are giving you specific numbers, context, and obviously you need to do it for that, but always have one prepped that if it's just an open general question, bam, you don't have to do any thinking, and you're just going to draw down and write down your prepped version of this. So let's quickly go through game theory. So the key thing around game theory is it's hinged on interdependence. Interdependence is when I make a decision and all of you are going to react back to that. And the best way to think about it, and the most visual way to think about it, is two people in a fight. If I've punched you in your face, I would expect you to be punching me back in my face. So whenever we think of an oligopoly market, think about it like two boxers in a ring. I'm going to punch you, so you're going to punch me. Then because I punched you, I'm going to punch you back. Yeah? And that's what it is. I'm making the decision reactive to what you're doing. Okay? So that's what we're talking about when we're referring to interdependence. And so I'm not going to go through the kink demand curve, but I'm just going to go through the concept of an oligopoly market, and then we can understand how game theory actually fits. Because I think lots of people are taught game theory as something separate, lots of things separate, they don't know how to actually link it together. So when we have a kinked demand curve, this is showing us or proving to us why prices are sticky and why firms compete on non-price factors. If you haven't watched this video already, go and watch the animated video I've made around kinked demand curve and oligopolies, around game theory and the evaluation points after you've done this, because it is probably one of the, I think those two videos are the best videos on the whole platform to explain the most complicated topic in a really simple and easy way. So me and my animator spent hours and hours and hours to nail that and get that right. So please go and watch it because it is fantastic. So the concept of a kink demand curve, like I said, is to prove prices are sticky. And it's to show that firms compete on non-price factors. They never drop prices because all that does, if they drop a price, it leads to a price war. If they increase a price, they lose all their customers. Okay? So that's what this is, the kink demand curve shows us, is that we don't want to put our prices up and we don't want to put our prices down. It doesn't make sense in any scenario for us to ever change the price. So we should always be competing, all of us should be charging the same price for the product. The thing we should be competing on is non-price factors, loyalty, experience, quality. Whatever those things might mean to you, that's basically what non-price factors are. So if you think about supermarkets, there's a reason why I go and shop in M&S, because of the experience of it. I don't go and shop in there because of prices. I don't go and shop in there for any other reason other than the quality of the products, in my opinion, I prefer them. And the shopping experience is 100 times better. I don't want screaming kids down the alley next to me because it annoys me. So I don't want to do that. I want to have a nice, luxurious shopping experience. So that is an example of a non-price factor. M&S don't compete on prices. They're not trying to drop their prices to get me and lure me into the shop. They're saying, right, okay, we might be a bit more expensive on products, but these are all the other added benefits you get from shopping with us. So come and shop with us, right? So that's what the kinked demand curve shows us. And the reason why it shows us this is because oligopolies have two objectives. The first one is to maximize market share. The second one is to maximize profits. So they want to do both of these things, but the biggest priority is the market share, then the profit. But they never want to not make supernormal profits because that's also their objective. But market share is the most important part. So that's how collusion comes into things. Collusion is when firms come together and they artificially fix higher prices. So then everyone's market share remains the same and it's stable. So market share is stable, but they've been able to max profits even more. They've been able to extract higher profits. So that's the purpose of collusion, is that if they did it under normal bounds and they decided to put their price up, they would lose all their customers. But if everyone decides to put their price up to the same price, then they're not going to lose customers because everyone's paying the same. There's no way you can go to substitute your product for a cheaper price. So that's why people collude. It's because it allows them to achieve both objectives at the same time. They can maximize profits and keep market share stable because they're not worried about anybody changing prices because they have agreed and come together to say, guys, we're all going to sell this amount of the product. Let's restrict the quantity, force the price up, and let's do this. So no one's worried about market share because everyone's charging the same price as they were in terms of like previously. So if everyone was charging £1 for a loaf of bread, now everyone's charging £2 for a loaf of bread. They're not going to lose any customers. Everyone's going to go to where they were usually going because there's nowhere that you can get the product for cheaper. But what the firm's been able to do is to keep their market share stable, but also now make an extra pound profit per loaf of bread because they've fixed the prices artificially. So that is what collusion is. Okay, so you've got two types of collusion. You have tacit and you have overt. Tacit is like cooperation. This is legal. And this is basically just following each other's pricing. So it's following price decisions. Whereas overt is you're coming into a room and you're making a formal agreement. And that is illegal. You can't do that. If you get caught doing that, it's not fair. Because obviously